everyone. Welcome to the Golden Hour and the Manifest to Live Life Golden podcast and YouTube show. I am Golden Duffy, and today we're talking about imposter syndrome. Have you ever experienced this? We're going to talk about authenticity and what authenticity means in the face of imposter syndrome and how to overcome this psychological experience. This is not something that's like a mental disorder. This is not something that is even rare. I think that if you asked probably anyone if they've experienced imposter syndrome in their life, they would give you a resounding yes, and potentially still be experiencing it. And the reason why I want to speak to this today is because of a conversation that I had in my own personal life with my husband, and both of us just feeling like we're doing this massive up level in our life and massive up level in our business, and it's causing us to have to do new things and be a new identity. And that's the thing about your belief lid and working towards a new identity where you're shedding poverty, where you're shedding low self-esteem, where you're shedding, the ways that you have limited yourself in the past. You're going to go through this experience where your mind kicks up all the doubts and all the reasons why you can't or why you shouldn't or why it's a bad idea. So imposter syndrome comes on the heels of that mind kicking up, attempting to help you to stay the same and stay safe. It's not the authentic persona of who you are. It's not the authentic, deeper, whole, healed being that you are. It is a fragment of who you are. And it's a construct. It's an absolute false construct that a lot of times is built on fear, unworthiness, and a desire to look better than other people or to, look perfect all the time. And I always bring this stuff back to like our, I call them playground wounds or elementary school wounds, like those wounds from when we got things wrong in the classroom. I mean, we were set up this way from the very beginning when they started testing in schools. And basically they were saying that your intelligence was based on how well you did on tests, right? Like they're a huge percentage of your grade. So if you didn't do good on tests, and when I'm thinking like, I just got this download on testing and how testing it does not measure our intelligence. Testing measures how well we can memorize things that don't really matter to us, right? Like when we're passionate about something and we really want to learn about something, it's very easy to learn it. But when we're trying to learn things that don't really make sense to us or don't really, equate to what we're trying to do in the world or what's important to us in the world, and they're superimposing some importance on us, and then we have to pretend, right, like it's important to us because our grades are important, because pleasing our parents are important, because we want to look smart, we want to be successful in the world. Those metrics are off. Like equating intelligence with, how much college you received, or, instead of looking at like what you're creating in the world, instead of looking at like what kind of knowledge you were able to obtain or memorize or keep, fresh, it's a false metric. So looking at your life experience and going, okay, in the times that I'm getting ready to up level, there's going to be mechanisms in my mind. There's going to be mechanisms that are going to try to keep me the same. And those mechanisms are going to tell me that I'm not smart enough, that I don't know what I'm doing, that I'm not going to be able to figure it out, that I'm going to look stupid, that I'm going to make mistakes. And then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're putting that signal out into the world. So that's what you end up creating. So I love to do this. I haven't done this in a really long time, but I actually looked up imposter syndrome because I told my husband, I said, I'm going to research this and I'm going to do a show on it because I feel like there's a lot of importance here. There are a huge percentage of people, especially people in college. They've done studies on this imposter syndrome, and people that were going to school to be like a doctor or a lawyer and spent years and years and years in school, and then they finally pass the bar or they, get their certifications, they feel like an imposter because they're like, here they are in this really important role, saving lives or even being a huge conductor in the lives of other people and what happens to them. And there's this disconnect with who they've become and who they've been trained to be. And because you don't have the experience yet, there will be that disconnect from the identity. So until you have enough experience and you've been in the courtroom a bunch of times, or you've been in the surgery room a bunch of times, and you've got that knowledge and experience, really it's just a book knowledge. It's not really that life experience. But even if you have had lots of experience, if you have a very strong connection with the shitty committee, which we've talked about many times, is that voice inside your head that tries to keep you down and less than. If you have a really strong relationship and you've tuned into that over time, many, many times, that will be the voice that you hear instead of the stronger intuition that is actually connected to who you really are, that higher state of consciousness. So, if you don't spend time in meditating and you don't spend time connecting with your truth and what you're here to learn and grow from, you may come from that, have a really hard time and really struggle with that imposter syndrome. So this is what our little Google brought up. Imposter syndrome, also known as imposter phenomenon or imposterism, is a psychological experience in which a person suffers from feelings of intellectual and or professional fraudulence. So you feel like a fraud. One source defines it as the subjective experience of perceived, none of this is true. It's not a fact. It's not a condition. It's all a perception. One source defines it, as the subjective experience of perceived self-doubt in one's abilities and accomplishments compared with others. This is the basis of it is comparison syndrome. Despite evidence to suggest the contrary, those who suffer from imposter syndrome often doubt their skills, talents, or accomplishments. They may have a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as frauds. Despite external evidence of their competence, those experiencing this phenomena do not believe they deserve their success or luck. And this is why you really want to clear this up, because if you don't believe that you deserve success or luck, or you don't believe that you're worthy of success or luck, how are you going to manifest it? How are you going to align with it and identify with it if you can't even connect with it? Imposter syndrome is not a recognized psychiatric disorder, shockingly, right? I feel like everything is a psychiatric disorder today. Shockingly, it has not been considered that. And it's also not listed as a diagnosis as far as a disease goes. So clinicians lack information on the prevalence, comorbidities, and the best practices for assessing and treating imposter syndrome. I will speak to that. However, outside the academic literature, imposter syndrome has become widely discussed, especially in the context of achievement in the workplace. Signs and symptoms. So here you go. This is how you know if you have imposter syndrome. Is studied as a reaction. Imposter syndrome is studied as a reaction to particular stimuli and events. So you may not feel it all the time. It is an experience that a person has, not a mental disorder. They really want to drive that one home. Imposter syndrome is classified systems recognize that low self-esteem and sense of failure as associated with symptoms of depression. Although imposter syndrome is not a pathological condition, it is a distorted system or belief about oneself that can have a powerful negative impact on a person's valuation of their own worth. And then it goes on to say that people with this syndrome have a higher chance to suffer from depression and anxiety, because you're literally tuning into that lower self, that lower part of yourself that is detrimental to your well-being, to your joy, to all of that. They originally believed that it was just for women, for high achieving women. They believed that in the beginning, but now the reason for that was because most men would not be vulnerable enough to confess that they actually went through imposter syndrome. So here are some of the 3 factors that actually came down in 2023 of assessments. Doubts about achievement is fear of failure of success and over preparation. So overthinking. I have to work harder than everybody else to achieve. Perceived discrepancy, discounting achievements and attributing success to external factors such as luck, um, and then self-handicapping behaviors, avoidance, and perfectionism. Leaving tasks to the last minute, procrastinating, the whole thing. So there's a lot of factors when it comes to imposter syndrome and not feeling like you are living your authenticity. And it stems mostly from unworthiness and a lack of self-esteem and self-confidence, which always, goes back to what was the wound that created that low self-esteem. That's the question. That's the writing prompt. What was the wound that brought me into this feeling of imposter syndrome? And why have I been walking around in my life not feeling authentic, not feeling like I am being true, or that I have my integrity is like I'm being an integral person by sharing the truth of who I am. I think there's a couple of different ways that people do this when they have this facade up. One is like overconfidence. I think overconfidence and, saying that you're really good at something before you're actually good at it. It's like that whole acting as if thing. There's a disconnect there because you're not in full alignment, because you haven't been fully vetted, or you don't have the full experience of what you're claiming to know how to do. So I do believe that overconfidence even is part of imposter syndrome, because you're basically trying to compensate for skills and abilities that you don't have, instead of going out and getting those skills and abilities. And how do we get skills and abilities? We go out and we pursue them, right? We take classes, we read books, we watch YouTubes, however you learn, right? That's how you build on your skills and abilities, but then also your life experience is going to allow you to play those out, those skills and abilities. So I know people that get that paralysis of analysis and they stay in school forever. I know lots of people that do coaching and they get one coaching certification after another because they don't feel confident, and they think that all of these degrees and all of these things after their name is going to make them somebody. It's going to make them who they think they want to be. And at the end of the day, if you don't feel like it doesn't matter how many letters are after your name or how many certifications you've gotten. The energetic alignment of what you truly feel like you are is what's going to create in your experience, not the degrees, not the certifications. And whenever I meet somebody and they, are really strong and bent on sharing all of their accomplishments with me, I feel like that is an imposter syndrome, because they need to tell done for me to feel like, oh, this person's like a big deal. Like I should pay attention to this person because they've accomplished a lot. And we are not our accomplishments. We are not our doings. We are not like the people that we're connected to. You ever hang out with people and they're like name dropping other people, like, oh, I know this one and I know that one, and I'm doing this with this famous one. And it's like, it's so surface. It's so on the surface of what we're here to build and to do, that it discounts who you really are inside and your true attributes. Your accomplishments are not your true attributes. Your attributes, like the truth, the persona of who you really are here, is how you navigate in the world, right? So it's like your integrity, it's how honest you are with yourself and others. It is your moral compass. It's your value, the value that you put into the world, right? It's not these like merits, right? And these like world view of accomplishment and success. We got to strip away at this, because our social programming is so far off from the truth of who we are, that we've got to start shedding these programmings in order to come into a more authentic place, in a place where we feel like we really belong. Imposter syndrome is a huge piece of feeling like you don't belong. And when you feel like you don't belong, your audience will reflect that to you. So even if people want to be your friend, even if people want to reach out to you, they won't be able to, because you will have a block up with your belief systems. It's like, nobody wants to be with me. These people are inclusive or exclusive. They're, there's clicks, they don't like me. Whatever the story that you're giving yourself is actually creating that scenario. And that's how we get ourselves on the outside of things, right? And that's how we get ourselves in conversations where we feel like people don't listen to us, where we feel like we don't matter. There is like a whole, I'm really aware of like when women get older, I don't know about men, but I've experienced this with women. They feel like they don't matter, right? So maybe they don't have the same purpose they did, like maybe their kids are grown and they've been empty nested, so they don't have the same usefulness or purposefulness, so they feel like they don't matter. So then people don't see them, they don't notice them, and then they get looked over or they get ignored, and then that brings up even more imposter syndrome, like I don't belong, right? Imposter syndrome, I don't belong, I'm an imposter, I'm not living my truth, I'm living a facade. So as you're experiencing this, like as you're noticing this, of course, awareness is always the first step. And I recently, like the other day, kind of felt this, and I was getting ready for an event. It was just like a networking event, but it was at a very high end golf course. And I was, trying to come up with the right outfit to give the right vibe. And I am not a person who cares what other people think at this point in my life. I really don't. I've really outgrown so much of that used to keep me in limitation and lack and fear and all of that. But there is this element underneath that goes, like, who do you think you are? And, that kind of thing. And being worried, like, will people talk to me? Will I, make friends there? Will I, all the things, like, will I connect? Will I feel like left out? And this is the second time that we actually went to an event with this same people. And there is a very exclusive feeling in this group. Like, I don't feel like there's a lot of friendly faces. So we went, and I asked my husband if he ever experienced that. And he said, I'm like, I don't even know who I am anymore. Cause it's like, now it's like, I'm stepping into this like business mode. I haven't been in business mode in a very long time. It's been quite a few years, probably about 10 years since I've actually been in any kind of like business situations. So stepping into new roles with our business, and now we have an office and all the things. And I was like, it's like a new identity for me, a new identity here. So aligning that new identity with authentically who I am and how I want to present is my work right now. So we get dressed and we go to the event, and then we're basically standing on this beautiful golf course, and there's all these people, and they're all in these different groups, and they're talking, and it can be awkward to like go into a group and try to make yourself known and seen, and people to stop talking about whatever they're talking about, and not knowing if they're friends and they're talking about personal things. Like, it's a weird situation. So there was a couple of women that were standing, and I had noticed them because I was like, oh, they're stylish and they're cute, and I could totally be friends with them, like that thought of like, oh, they seem like my people. And I just walked up to them and I was like, okay, hey, we're going to meet each other. Like, I'm just going to be friendly. And my husband was really glad I did. And I had a great conversation with them. In fact, one of the women was a law of attraction coach. So we had a lot of things in common and a lot of things to talk about. And we had a really nice time with them. So at some point during the evening, I got rid of that feeling of imposter syndrome. And I was like, I'm just going to be who I am, right? Which is friendly, which is outgoing, which is like an easy conversationalist. So if you're not those things, like if you haven't found that, that social niche for yourself, and I would say that you are still very heavily in the imposter syndrome, because if you can bypass it and become who you are talking to anybody, then I would practice it in the lesser experiences, like the grocery store. I love to create conversations. Even if the grocery person doesn't really want to talk to me, I will get them talking, because that's practice for me, right? Conversationalism practice. It's raising the vibration of both parties involved. Yesterday I was at Sprouts, and yesterday was a particularly awesome day, but it was also like, it was jam packed. So I actually went, got my nails done, left there. I know that sounds grueling, right? I was busy all day, working all day, meetings and things like that. And then I went and got my nails done. And then I went to the grocery store like super late. It was like 6:30, which normally I like to be kind of eating dinner and in my pajamas by then. So I missed my short little napitation in the afternoon. And I was just like, oh, I was like, so I said to the grocery store clerk, I said to him, I said, really just want to go to bed right now. And he was like, yeah, he's like, I've wanted to go to bed since 4 o'clock. And I could feel that he didn't necessarily want to keep talking to me, but I just kept talking. And I was like, don't you just love bed? Like, don't you just love, I said, no matter how bad life sucks, we always get to go to bed. Like we get to go to sleep and we get these beautiful, yummy, however many hours you sleep, and we get to just take a break. And I was like, that is so, I'm so grateful for that. And he was totally agreeing with me. He wasn't like egging on the conversation, but he was agreeing with me. And I was like, I don't know if I made him feel better about going to sleep at night or if I did anything at all, but I felt good about just creating conversation, even with people who might not socially want to create conversation. So if you're in a situation where you're feeling like social interactions are very hard for you and you avoid them, they will always be hard for you, right? Because what you're avoiding is actually going to help you to create easier conversations and to learn how to navigate these relationships, which I have shared before. I feel like is our whole point here, is to create relationships, to co-create, to, bounce off each other, to share our experiences, to learn from one another, to create light for one another, whatever that looks like for you. I really believe that hiding in your house and not being social. I mean, they've done studies. I mean, my grandmother, I feel like, was one of like a great example of this. She lived in a trailer park, not a poor trailer park. She lived in an old retirement community trailer park. Her trailer was actually very beautiful. And she was alone all the time. And like all of her friends that she used to hang out with had died. And she was, she just deteriorated because she didn't have social interaction. She was alone all the time. She used to tell my dad, I'm lonely, nobody comes and visits me, which doesn't make people want to visit you when you do that. So getting yourself with people in any way, shape, or form, whatever that looks like, joining groups or meetup groups or joining a gym, or just getting yourself in more social interactions so that you can practice overcoming this imposter syndrome by connecting with people in the realness of who you are. And it may be hard to do that. I value that it's hard for some people to do that, especially if you don't feel like you've achieved what you want to achieve in life. And then I would question why that is. If you're feeling like an imposter on the opposite end of it, like if you're feeling like you're an imposter because you haven't done the things that you wanted to do, that you thought you would become, then I would say take a really good hard look at that and say, how can I do that? If that's something that I always wanted to do, how can I do that? I recently had that happen with becoming an interior designer because I really, really love decorating. I love tile. I love aesthetics. I love a beautiful home. I love a beautiful kitchen. And I realized that I had this, and it came on the heels of visiting someone who just created a business and getting really mad at myself. Like, why have I never done this? Like, it's such an interest and such a passion for me. Why haven't I ever pursued it? And then for the next day to be like, set up a tour to go to an interior design school and then sign up for it, is me stepping into that call of something that I always wanted to do. And a couple of years ago, went back to learn ballet because I quit ballet when I was 8 years old. And it was always like this little like yucky thing for me. And now I feel very accomplished in that. I did like a 6-week silly course, but it made me feel like, hey, I went out there, I was confident, I learned the steps, and I don't feel like I failed at that or quit at that because I went back and did it in my late 40s. So there are a whole bunch of things that we can do to start to build on that confidence and no longer feel like a fraud. So if you are feeling that way, I would start asking yourself, first of all, it's a really good idea to write down the things that you've accomplished. I am so good at forgetting all the things that I've done. And when I start to share with people, and I really hold back a lot of times telling people what I do, or because I don't want to be that person. I also, I value just not coming from the ego and needing people to know everything I've done. So I'll kind of slip it into the conversation. And I noticed when I was talking to these two women, I didn't even tell them like a quarter of what I've done. And one of the women said to me, she goes, you're a creator. And I was like, yeah, I'm constantly having ideas and creating. And because of that, I'm able to speak to how to overcome that feeling, because as a mom, like being a stay-at-home mom for so long, like most of my life, staying home with my kids, and then building a business online and a TV show and getting over the fear of being seen, and then writing books. And it sounds like I'm telling you all the things I did, but being able to walk through that massive resistance, right? The resistance to become more, the resistance to say, okay, I'm not just a mom. I always had that like burning sensation in my body that was like, you're more than just a mom, right? But I would always say, I'm just a mom. And being a mom is huge. It's huge. Like, I have these 4 incredible daughters that I have helped, nurture and support and love, and still continue to do so. So I'm not discounting being a mother whatsoever, but there's also these gifts and talents that I wanted to pursue. And now that I'm able to do that, it's like, okay, what else can I do? What else can I like find passion and joy in? And that's where you start to really hone those gifts and hone your voice in the world. So what is that like belief lid? What is that thing that's holding you back from being that true, authentic self, where you're stepping out of the imposter syndrome of either being less than, or the imposter syndrome of being more than you feel like you have the capabilities to be? It's important to remember that anxiety shuts down your wisdom channel, and that and usually the anxiety is connected to worrying about what other people think, or worrying that you're going to say the wrong thing. When you have this feeling of anxiety, sit down. If you can, take a break, sit down, write down what you would have to believe to create from this anxiety. Like, what are the beliefs that are creating the anxiety? I believe people won't like me. I believe people are judging me. I'll believe that I say the wrong thing. All those things, when you look at them, you can then show yourself on the other side of the paper all the things you've done to overcome that stuff. So it's like, for me, it's like, oh, I've spoken in front of 4,000 people. It was a 6-minute thing. It was like really not a big deal. But it's like when you say, oh, I've spoken in front of 4,000 people, then if I have a group of 10 or 20, or if I'm doing something online, it doesn't feel so crazy, because it's like, oh, I've done that. So it's reminding yourself of your accomplishments so that you can start stripping away at those doubts and those fears and that false sense of your identity. That's what imposter syndrome is. It's a false sense of your identity, because you're not fully claiming who you are and what you've actually done and what you actually have the capability of doing as you move forward. That was a good download. That was really good. You might want to rewind that, listen to it again, and see if I can say it again. Imposter syndrome is not doing things that you're not capable of. It's doing things that you're very capable of and disconnecting from the feelings that you're not. It's false. It's a false identity. It's a false connection. I mean, it's a connection, but it's a false connection to that lower self, right? It's that lower self is driving the bus. So meditation, of course, is always going to be one of my number one ways to get out of imposter syndrome, because you're going into higher states of consciousness. You're connecting with your intuition. You're connecting with your power center, which will allow you to be more powerful and more confident and have more self-esteem. You're facing your wounds, you're facing the traumas that you had. You're getting real with yourself, like if you've been like kidding yourself and saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Like, words don't really do much. It's your actions that really do a lot. So if you're saying something like, oh, I'm going to be a best-selling author, then you best be writing every day. You best be putting 3 pages down every single day. If you're not putting those 3 pages down, then you're not an author. If you're not writing, you're not an author, right? And you have no ability to become a best-selling author unless you write, right? That's just like one little example. If you're in school for something and you're actually going to create some degrees and create like a new title in the world, I think it's going to come with experience. So the degree doesn't necessarily give you the confidence or make you feel like you're authentic. All the degree does is kind of get you to that next step. And then the step for yourself is to sift through those lower belief systems that may try to sabotage your success in that field, right? So, if you've gotten into if you're going into a business like psychology or a psychiatrist, clearly you had an interest in giving people advice, which they are not even really allowed to give people advice. You're only really allowed to give people questions that help lead them to their own answers. It's part of the challenge with any kind of therapeutic profession, is that you can't truly authentically be yourself because your guidance might be restrained. So keep that in mind. I don't know why I said that, but it was for somebody. So look at the ways that your guidance is being restrained, right? Like, are you restraining it? Or are you putting yourself in situations where it's restrained? Can you live in an unlimited potential situation? Can you live in an unlimited potential universe where you connect with that infinite intelligence, because you're letting go of the lower self and you're stepping into the higher self. You're letting go of those low belief systems that have kept you from being in any sort of action. Listen, we all have gifts. We all have talents. We all have passions. Are we living them? Are we paying any attention to them? Are we pursuing them in any way, research wise, airtime, talking about it isn't really totally powerful, but it will help if you are talking to people who talk you into it, who keep you in like really excited about it and get you to be in some action, because you're sharing with people what you're going to do, and you better do it if you want to look like you have some sort of integrity and you like really are honest with your word, right? You got to do that. You absolutely got to do that. All right. So imposter syndrome. Let me just see if there's anything else that I need to share from this. I have kitty hair all over my phone. Several famous people have reported suffering from imposter syndrome, including Michelle Obama and Sheryl Sandberg. Okay, very random, 2 people. Okay, so the history of it is the imposter phenomenon was introduced in an article published in 1978, and it was an article on high achieving women, and it was defined as an internal experience of intellectual phoniness. In 1985, Clance published a book on the topic, and the phenomenon became widely known. Initially, Clance identified the syndrome with high-achieving professional women, but later studies found that it is widespread in both men and women and in any professional setting. So this is not subject to just one gender. It's not subject to one profession. It's really just subject to, I believe, part of it is when we start to make those big changes and when we start to make up levels and put ourselves in positions where we're going to have to be called upon to be more, right? To identify with more, to, hone our skills and abilities. That's when I think it really starts to kick up. Or if it's on the other spectrum where you're living less than, it's bleeding across your life and it's not allowing you to start school again, or learn a new craft, or learn a new skill, or do something that really interests you that you feel like has been calling to you. So the ways around that is to know about it first, right? But awareness changes nothing. So we have to look at it, and then we've got to ask those questions. What is this keeping me from? What am I afraid of? Why? Where does this come from? I'm interested in overcoming this. How do I overcome it? And then coming up with some statements that interrupt the dialogue. And I will tell you that there are times in your life where imposter syndrome is more prevalent, where it has more of a hold on you, where it has more access to you. And I would say that those times in your life are the times in your life when you're not being purposeful, when you're not being intentional, when you're just getting by, when you're in the struggle, when you're not really living something that feels really good to you. That's when it's really going to take hold, because you're in a lower vibrational state. Right? You're living less than you actually want to be living. So there's going to be those reminders all the time, because your heart is always going to call you to what's going to bring you more joy, more fun, more interest, more passion. So where are you in that spectrum? Okay. So paying attention to that and asking those very important questions, and then deciding for yourself, I am not an imposter, right? I know who I am. I know what I want to express. I know what I want to share in the world, right? And not needing to prove your intellect so much, not needing to prove that you are, we don't want to come from a place of having to prove, but it's more about just stepping in it powerfully, not proving, just activating. It's very different to prove and then to activate. Proving is pushing energy. I got to prove this to that person. It works, totally works, right? I got to prove it to myself. It works. But activating is a very different energy, because it comes from the place of, I want to live this because this is who I am. I'm excited to live this because this is who I am. I'm not doing it to prove anything to anybody. I'm not doing it to prove to the world that I'm successful or prove to the world that I'm smart. Who are we proving this to? It could be parents. It could be a spouse. It could be just the world in general. It could be yourself. Like, you have this drive of unworthiness inside of you. And that's where proving energy comes from. It comes from the unworthiness. I'm so unworthy. I have to do something to prove that I'm not unworthy. And you are worthy just for being. You are worthy just for being on this crazy earth at this crazy time, and walking through and navigating the lessons, right? The lessons, the gifts, all of it. So getting clear a lot of times is asking and then allowing time for downloads. I've been doing that a lot lately, because I don't like the idea of having blind spots. I believe is true. And that's why it's always good to talk to someone who has some skills and abilities that can give you higher perspective. I think that can be really valuable. But I also think it's important not to give your power away and need advice from other people. I still find myself doing that. I should talk to this person because I need to. And basically we feel like, I just need to talk to somebody to process. And that's great if you have the right sounding board. So recently I've just been asking. So when you ask, right, you take it into your meditation, or you just say these words. I've been saying this a lot lately, I'm in solution mode. Show me the solutions, right? That's inviting in your non-physical guidance, your angels, your team. And it's opening your eyes to something that you might not be seeing. So it's not like, I'm confused, I don't know what to do, or it's going over and over and over the problem. That's a habit. That's the programming that's going to keep you stuck in the problem. So it's reaching higher, and it's saying, every time my mind goes to, we have 3 or 4 situations right now that we're working on to improve. If I find myself in those moments of looking at the problem, obsessing about the problem, thinking about the problem, my husband and I are talking about the problems. Instead, if I'm to reach for the solution, right, and interrupt it and go, I'm finding solutions. When you say something like, I'm finding solutions, you feel so much better, because then you don't feel like the problem is unsolvable. You don't feel like it's too big to figure out. It's like, show me the way. Show me the solutions. Show me the path to follow. Show me the path to the least resistance, right? The path of least resistance. I'm going to follow it. I'm going to follow where the energy goes. So keeping my focus on that solution energy allows the solutions and the downloads to come. And then before I know it, I'm getting these downloads of, this is what you're here. This is what you're here to learn. These are the lessons. This is how to get the most benefit out of what you're experiencing. This is how to communicate. Communication is so, so important. I'm just realizing that. So I had a situation in my life recently, and I was feeling very frustrated by it, and also feeling, now these are like feelings that were coming up that are like from past experiences and past traumas, where I didn't use my voice. I didn't speak what I wanted. I didn't speak what I needed. And because of that, I got kind of really far from the alignment of this, sanctuary life, this peace, this joy, this love, all of this. So I got a download, and this actually comes from a song that's written. It was written by Aurora Wave, which is like the heavy metal reggae band, which I'm so not into, but I did see them in concert, and they were openers for one of my favorite bands. And the line in the song is, "Don't mistake my kindness for weakness." And the download that I got was, your weakness is not communicating. It's not our kindness is not our weakness. The weakness is not communicating. It's not telling people what we really need. It's not telling people what they need to hear, right? And this isn't about like attacking people or telling people what's wrong. It's coming from like, this is how I feel. And if you have conversations more about how you feel instead of blaming someone for how you feel, it's like, this is what's coming up for me. This is what I'm working on. This is what I'm processing. You will have way better conversations. They will be way more productive than when you're pointing fingers and telling people what's wrong. Also, if you're in alignment with the solution when you do this, instead of being in alignment with the problem. So it's like, this is a situation. What can we do about it now? How can we make this better? How can we improve on this situation? That will put you out of problem-oriented energy and put you in the solution mode. Let's see, is there anything else about imposter syndrome? I would say really go deep within, start journaling. I have my journal here. I think this could be really helpful. I want to see, I'm going to pop this open here. Wait, let me put up let me actually share the QR code on this, because this one's a little hard to find on Amazon. So this is the journal. Up in the left-hand corner is the QR code that will allow you to purchase it from Amazon. This is a hardcover book. I just want to pop it open to see what one of the writing prompts is. So I've got like 100 pages. Let me just pop it open. I have 100 pages of information in here. It's a daily guide. So it's how to get into higher vibrational states. And then there's like a whole bunch of writing prompts and like 100 pages of journaling. Okay. This is good. I love doing this. Today, I take full responsibility for all that is happening in my life, and I work on changing my responses so I no longer live in drama or victimhood. No longer living in imposter syndrome is no longer living in drama and victimhood. And the thing about imposter syndrome is it really does put a lid on what you can accomplish, because it's a disconnect from that flow of energy that wants to live through you. One of the other things that came through was on fear. When we don't look at our fear, when we just go, I don't know how to do that, so I'm not even going to try to figure it out, right? And we've got this fear that's blocking us from actually like going down a path of our passions and our joy and all the things that we say we want, right? The things we want to manifest. When we don't look at that fear, it becomes a huge roadblock. But if we look at it and we say, how can I do this? How can I work? How can I navigate this path of fear and walk through my fears so I can come out on the other side with my desires being met? That's the way to walk through fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. It's never real. And it becomes this like monster under the bed, right? We're ever afraid of the monster under the bed or the monster in the closet, right? That's all fear of unknown. Not knowing, not being able to see. So that's what fear will do. It will put blinders on you, and you won't be able to see the solutions because you're too wrapped up in the fear. So when you look at fear, it dissipates. It dissipates, and you can talk yourself out of it very easily by telling yourself the truth. asking yourself, what would I have to believe to make that fear true? I'd have to believe that I'm not supported by the universe. I would have to believe that I'm a failure. I would have to believe that I always make mistakes. And maybe these are things you believe about yourself, and this is an opportunity to heal that. Any low level belief system or belief system that limits you you're being invited to heal that. And whatever this cyclical situation is calling you to heal that. It's an invitation to heal that. All right, so that's the journal. Let's hide that. My other book is I'll just do this real quick. Mindful Manifestation Secrets. This is our first book, really great book on the science of manifesting and how we moved across the country, but also a ton of other manifestation stories, but also the actual how-to manifest. And that one is up there on the left-hand screen. I've got Quantum Speak for Parents. This is for all my parents out there. If you're dealing with older parents, having to take care of them, if you're dealing with little kids, teenagers, I've got it all in here. It's all grandparenting, all of it. It's all in here. Great book, great guidance. And here, The Perfect Unfolding for the Expansion of Your Soul. This is my newest book. It's about spiritual aspects of manifesting. And then support the show. If you want to support the show, there's a buy me a cup of coffee. If you've gotten some benefit off of the show, that's a great way to support it and keep me ad free. Because if we want to monetize, then ads may be coming. And actually, YouTube has put ads on my videos, and I'm not monetizing YouTube. So that's great. So if anybody knows how to get rid of that, that would be awesome. I figured it out on my meditations. In fact, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a lot of great guided meditations, and there's ads on it, and it's annoying, and you can't get past it. I think there's one in the beginning and maybe one in the middle. Message me at livelifegolden@gmail.com, and I will give you the downloaded version that doesn't have the ads on it. I meditate to a meditation, and I love it so much, and I just deal with the ads. Because I can do that, right? I don't have to let it ruin it for me. I can just do that. But I do have a way of doing that. So if you want to support the show, the QR code is there. We're going to do a little Russian roulette here because you guys know I love to do that. And we're going to do a little Russian roulette on our imposter syndrome, being authentic, and releasing ourselves from that. All right, let's see what we got. This is great. It's back on the turkey vulture, which we had last week. I find it interesting that I keep pulling to this page on the turkey vulture. Let's see. I want to see where, okay. Turkey vulture spirit animal, with her ability to smell the wind, helps you sort through your thoughts. Air is symbolic of the mind. I feel like this is the exact place that I was last week, but it works for this. Your thoughts can be confusing whirlwinds at times. Imposter syndrome is connected to those whirlwind thoughts. It can be hard to tell if your mind is making something up or if it is your true intuition. Turkey vulture rides the currents of the mind and helps you to connect to the ground of knowing. Summer is the season of turkey vulture. She rides with wings extended in a V shape on thermals of hot air. Hot air rises off the sun-soaked earth in a spiral pattern, and turkey vulture is an expert at catching a ride on this invisible elevator. So interesting. She circles upwards, teetering and relaxed. She rarely flaps her wings, but stays aloft for hours. Her migration between North and South America is spent casually riding these warm breezes. The turkey vulture reminds you to ride the warm currents in your own life. Allow yourself to benefit from what life has to offer and let go of the need to work so hard. Let life bring you warmth and sustenance. The currents will carry you where you need to go. Exercise a little patience and relax for a bit. As a scavenger, the turkey vulture spirit animal is able to sniff out the nourishing gifts laid out like a banquet. We think of a carcass as a waste left to rot, but a turkey spirit animal turns the tragedy of a life lost in the miracle of flight. She lets nothing go to waste, and no matter how old it is, she will still eat it. This is so interesting. The turkey vulture has an important role in cleaning up ecosystems. Turkey vulture is a scavenger, and she can eat carcasses of animals that are infected with botulism, anthrax, salmonella, and cholera. Her stomach acid kills the bacteria and transmutes the toxins she ingests. Turkey vulture effectively eliminates bacteria and toxins from the environment. The scientific name of the turkey vulture is Cathartis aura. This can be translated as golden purifier or cleansing breeze. So the vulture teaches us to live our lives in more flow and to neutralize the bacteria in life by letting go of the energies that can be toxic. So interesting. So what I'm taking from that as far as the imposter syndrome goes is like, that's a bacteria, that's a toxin. How are you going to transmute those belief systems and those doubts that have caused you to not live your true gifts and talents? How are you going to transmute them? Call on the turkey vulture. We can always do this. We can always call on our non-physical support system. So the energy of the turkey vulture is to alchemize that energy. So anytime you're in self-doubt, anytime you're beating yourself up, anytime you're feeling like you messed up, you're embarrassed, you're ashamed, you don't want to speak, turn to that energy and ask it to be transmuted. Ask for confidence, ask for empowerment, ask for strength and courage and all of those things. When you ask, it is given every time. And it's asking from faith. It's asking and believing that you're going to receive that. It's not begging. It's not praying. It's literally setting a decision and a determination for these energies to come to you and make a difference in your life. Cool. I love that. It's so amazing. All right, let's do one more. Mindful manifestation secrets. Let's see what we got. Pictures. Okay. When you setting out to do something that may appear crazy is not for the weak. In fact, I would highly advise that you do not tell anyone what you are planning unless you want to introduce their resistance around it and their own imposter syndrome. People are going to put their imposter syndrome on you if they haven't achieved the goals and dreams that they wanted to do. Everyone has an opinion, and their opinions are based on their life experience. They do not have this crazy desire burning through them and calling them to more. Or do they? People also do not like to see others change their lives because it means they may not be pursuing the dreams they have been called to. It shines a spotlight on the inner callings that they have shushed in order to keep life complacent and trapped in a life that feels same. I wish I could tell you that we knew what we were doing, but we really didn't. Sometimes when you follow your inner guidance, you will do things that just don't make sense. The guys that Michael knew couldn't fathom why he would leave a thriving business to move to the unknown, a place where we didn't know the building laws or even how to build for earthquakes. I am one lucky girl to be married to someone who knows who he is and what he is capable of. My husband has a strong drive and a knowing that he is capable of massive success no matter where he goes. He took on the belief some time ago that he would always have work and always create abundance. It was that belief that he took with him to California. In a few short years, he would create exactly what he set out for. And yet, he still experiences some imposter syndrome. So we all do. We all absolutely do. And if you think someone doesn't, they're lying to you. It's a mechanism of the mind to keep us safe in the same. It's wounds, it's challenges, it's a call to heal, it's an invitation to heal. You being your authentic and true self here matters. That's what the world needs. It needs your truth. It needs your authenticity. It doesn't need you to pretend or put on airs. You're not pretending. You're not. You don't need to pretend. You don't need to prove. You just need to be you. The more you can be, the better off you will be. I just made a rhyme. That was pretty good. All right, guys. That is my show for, I have one more minute left. Let me just share a little bit on your mechanism for connecting with your higher guidance. So as you quiet your mind, I have a little thing on Facebook that you know about the M21 revolution. We just ran another challenge. And if you're late to the game, it's like day 9. The whole challenge is at the top of the group. So if you get in there, you can start very fresh. And we're in there. We love you. We support you. But as you get into that higher state of energy, in that higher state of consciousness where the stream is, right? The infinite intelligence stream is, you're going to get new ideas. You're going to get new awarenesses. You're going to create more abundance, more empowerment, more self-confidence, more self-esteem. But if you don't spend time fostering that relationship, it's like working at half power. Like if you do video games, it's like trying to do a video game on half power. Eventually you're going to peter out because you're not living that truth. You're living a lie. And we need more people living their truth. We need more people living their authenticity. We need more people that are real and telling their honest truth and communicating from a place of strength and empowerment. That's what's going to make us all better. That's what's going to make our relationships better. And that's what's going to make your life feel really, really good. All right, guys. Peace out.